Kingdom Hearts is a series that as a kid completely blew me away. I mean, we took Final Fantasy and Disney and we put them together. By all rationalizations, it really shouldn't even exist, I don't think. We're playing through the entire series though on my Twitch channel, and we just finished Kingdom Hearts 1. So I'd like to go ahead and talk about it, but I am going to go ahead and mention that this isn't going to be my obligatory Kingdom Hearts retrospective that pretty much all YouTubers do. We're going to be saving that for when I actually finish the series, so look forward to that, but this isn't going to be it. Full disclosure, I played the game on PS4 via the 1.5 and 2.5 collection combined. Say what you will about the game, but it was certainly fun to return to this old classic, especially with it being up-resed as much as it is and the load times being significantly faster. Sure, I don't think it's as good as Kingdom Hearts 2, but that's because I feel like Kingdom Hearts 2 built correctly upon most things that KH1 did. But we'll talk more about Kingdom Hearts 2 when we actually get to Kingdom Hearts 2. KH1's battle system was unlike anything I'd ever played before back when I was little. Sure, I'd played action games before, but none quite like this. I really like the way the game handled MP, where you have these little blocks instead of the gauge you have in later games, because it gave a clear visual representation of how much MP you had. Even though the health wasn't exactly the same way, I was still happy with how they did it, because with a rounded out gauge like that instead of using numbers, it still gives you a decent visual representation of how much HP you have. It takes a second to read a number and understand what it means, but even using just your peripheral vision, the gauge in KH gives you a good idea about where you stand health-wise at all times without thinking or without even really focusing your eyes on it. This allows you to put more focus on enemies and dodging attacks. My biggest gripe about fighting in and of itself was the camera, which was a little better in PS4 Final Mix than the original, but still not great. I found myself fighting it constantly, even outside of battle. I also hated how we didn't have dodge roll or guard at the beginning of the game. I feel like that was quite the oversight. My next gripe came from magic and items. I have this whole list of magic that I can use, as well as tons of items that I can equip. But unless I have a shortcut by using the L1 button, I can hardly even use them. This is because I'm constantly moving, and to be able to select magic or items, I have to take my hand off the stick, use the D-pad, and navigate to what I want to select. This doesn't make any sense because enemies are constantly coming at me, so if I render myself immobile for a second to select something, I'm very likely to get hit. I typically kept 2 attack spells and a cure on my shortcut list, but I wish we could have had more than 3 so that I could have more rooms for items or more spells or something like that, you know? My last gripe about the combat is how many small Heartless had periods of invincibility. Even the most basic enemies in the game, the shadows, would go into the floor and you can't hit them. The wizards would disappear and cast their thunder spells, and several ghost Heartless would also disappear. This made battles a lot more tedious than they should have been. It's just frustrating when you have a group of enemies that you can't even hit half of them. Or even if some of them are vulnerable, you accidentally might hit one of the invulnerable ones and it'll cancel your combo. One last thing before we move to visuals. The level design was all over the place. Some were good, some were not so good. Worlds like Agrabah were unbelievably cramped, while places like Atlantica were open wide. I will say though, I enjoyed playing through the stories of the worlds almost as if I was playing inside the movies they're from. The visuals on PS2 weren't too shabby at the time, but the PS4 really brought this game to life. It looks fantastic and runs well on my PS4. The visuals combined with KH's always amazing soundtrack really provided an all-encompassing experience. Kingdom Hearts is known for having a pretty confusing story, but this one kind of stood on its own pretty well. It isn't until KH2 where the story gets really convoluted. That's the cue for the KH elitists to be in the comments and being like, well, actually, they took a Final Fantasy-esque story and told it through Disney worlds and characters as well as Final Fantasy characters. There was also plenty of side stuff to do, like the Olympus Coliseum, the torn pages, crafting Ultima weapon, freeing all the Dalmatians, and collecting all the postcards. In fact, if you want to look at Jiminy's Journal acts as a guide for completionists out there. It's entirely optional to look at the journal though, which I don't even think I did once during the Twitch playthrough if I'm being honest. Okay, one last thing to wrap this up. Let me know down in the comments, does anyone actually like the gummy ship segments? I think they're okay, but also very unnecessary. I'm not gonna say that they're the worst things I've played, but it just breaks the flow of the game, and I can't say I had a whole lot of fun with them. I did, however, like building the goofiest looking ship that I could. I hope you guys enjoyed this little look back here on KH1. If you enjoyed it, then please go ahead and hit that like button. You can also catch me live on Twitch if you want to chat with me about anything that was covered in this video or videos prior. I do stream live on Twitch every Tuesday and Sunday. Those are our gaming nights. And then every other Saturday we do a community night. And then in between those Saturdays, so every other Saturday from that, we do discussion nights. And that's going to be it from me for today, everybody. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever and whenever you are. And as always, stay crazy.